Good morning, Louisa. I don't know if you guys can see and hear me clearly. We're a very small number today, only 23. Let's wait for more people to join. Today is a very rainy morning, so I can imagine if a lot of us are still asleep. Okay. Get a pen. How many are we now? Only 24. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. If you guys see your friends aren't on here, please send your friends a text message to join in. Tell them to wake up. All right, let's at least get to 30 people. We're 26, so let's just wait for 4 more and then we can start. Okay, we're on 29. Someone has left, 28. That's not good. Anyway, the rest of you guys, how have you been? How has your week been? I only have Louisa and Abigail respond. The rest of you, how has your week been? You're finally 30, which is great. But I want to hear from you guys. How's your week been? You can just drop a one-liner or a sentence um, in the chat. Thanks, Bolu and Vitalis. It's been fine and it's been okay. That's great. All right, we're going to begin with worship. Okay. So you guys know what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm very excited. We have Victor Bora and Dr. Yinka here with us, but we're going to first start with prayer and worship. Today is a very quiet morning because it's been raining, but it's very exciting what we have to share. Aloha, thanks for asking. My week has been good. It's actually been a good week. So, Father Lord, we just come before you with thanksgiving in our hearts. We praise you for a new day, for the gift of life, for the gift of for the gift of protection, for being with each and every one of us here today, that we're able to join and fellowship as a family. We commit today into your hands. We commit everything that we're going to learn about mental health into your hands. We ask that you give us understanding, you give us retentive memory, and, out of our mouths, Lord, would flow words just inspired by you in Jesus' name. We cover our families in the blood of Jesus. We cover all that we are going to do. Our movie night this afternoon, we cover it in the blood of Jesus. And we ask that you just take control over today and the week we have ahead of us. In the mighty name of Jesus, we've prayed. Amen. So let's get into worship. Okay. I'm going to share my screen now. And if you guys can't really hear, you can just let me know. But let me minimize this. They're in love with you. No one else can take your place. One thing I desire, only this I see, just to dwell here forever. This will be my posture, laying at your feet. Oh, just to dwell here forever. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, you are. Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful, you are. Most beautiful. One thing I desire, only this I see, just to dwell here forever. This will be my posture, laid at your feet. Oh, just to dwell here forever. Dearest Father, you are most beautiful. Your presence, most beautiful. You are dearest Father, closest friend. Your face, most beautiful.
Dearest Father, closest friend, most beautiful. Only you are most beautiful. Just one look of your face, you are. Dearest Father, the closest friend, most beautiful. You are most beautiful. Knowing there are no words, it's not. Listen, oh, I know, 'cause you've been that good to us, 'cause you've been that faithful to us. My love, my life, let it sing. And I know the word. This is my story. This is my song. Praising my Savior all the day long. All the day long. There's nothing lift up your voice and lift up your voice. Oh, I'm so in love with you. You're beautiful, so beautiful. Oh, I'll fix my eyes on you. You're beautiful, so beautiful. Come on, lift that down. I'm so in love. I'm so in love with you. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. So beautiful. You're the author and the finisher. I'll fix my eyes on you. You're beautiful. You're beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful. So with just one look, everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. With just one look, everything changes. Yes, it does. I'm captivated. Yes, I am. I'll never be the same. Say that. With just one, everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. Just one of your holy face. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. Just one, everything. I'm captivated. Because you're in the room. I'll never be the same. Just one, everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. With just one look, everything changes. I'm captivated. I'll never be the same. Just one.
Thank you.
It's the Junior Nader Shopping Festival.
Okay. Okay. That song is so beautiful. Let's get back here. All right. I think now we have more people on. Can everyone hear me clearly? You can just
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll ask again, since you have more people on, how has everyone's week been? And you can just drop me one liner on the chat. How has your week been? Or actually, how are you feeling today? Let me ask that. In one word, how are you feeling? See how H factor almost came through. How are you feeling today? Or how have you felt this week? What would you summarize? How have you felt this week? Has this week been a great week? Has this week been just stressed? Has this week been sad? Has this week been draining? What word would you use? I'll call you guys names out just so you can add it to the chat. So Bonike, Philip, FK, Shuri, Tife, Mofe, let me hear how your week has been in one statement. Or how are you feeling? Sorry. I'm waiting for you guys' response. Nervous. Are all of you, a handful of you, that's true, in work season? What's making you feel nervous, Louisa? What's making you feel nervous? Tired? Mofe said it's good. Junior Neko, oh, I'm so sorry about that, sweetie, but I'm sure just commit everything into God's hands and try your hardest. I know you've studied, so just give it your best shot, commit it into God's hands. And you know, as the Bible says, your plans will succeed once you commit it to God's hands, but don't let your nerves get in the way. Don't let it get the best out of you. I love to do, before I even start exams, I love to do these breathing exercises, and I look crazy when I start them. But I just like to take very deep breaths just to calm my nerves before I start, or even before I start studying. I just like taking very deep, long breaths. I think we have, I just want to make sure, Dr. Inka, are you here with us? I'm trying to find her.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ma. We're glad to have you on here. Hope you're doing great.
I'm fine, thank you very much.
That's great, Ma. So we have Dr. Yinka here with us, and I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Dr. Yinka. She's been here to just give us a lot of great nuggets on mental health, on dealing with different mental health issues. And you guys know she's a psychiatrist at the Freedom Center. I don't know if I pronounced it right. Is it Freedom Center?
Freudian.
Freudian Center.
Like Sigmund Freud.
Freudian Center. So we have her here to share with us more nuggets and gems of wisdom with regards to mental health. And I have Victor Bora here as well, who's going to be anchoring this session. Good morning, Victor Bora. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm very fine, thank you. Good morning. Thanks.
Good morning. Perfect. So I'm going to hand over to you, and we're just going to whatever questions you guys have, you can either raise your hands or ask your questions in the chat. And then after the entire session, we would go through your questions with Dr. Yinka, and I think that it will be seamless. So let's just all have our mics muted at the moment till after. But you can keep your hands raised or just ask the questions in the chat. So over to you, Victor Bora.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Pastor Ife. And was also really glad to have Dr. Inka with us this morning. She's a licensed and experienced doctor, and she's going to share with us, all the things that we need to know as teenagers about mental health. So, like we said, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and so far, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like Pastor Ife asked earlier, our feeling. We want to really looking in depth into our emotions and feelings, and also really talk in depthly about mental health. And of course, it's important, the importance of mental health to teenagers and young ones like ourselves. So thank you very much, Dr. Inka, for having us, for coming here today. We are really grateful. So not to waste much of our time, we're just going to go in depth into today's discussion. Dr. Inka, please, can you just tell us the meaning of mental health itself? I mean, we want to know what mental health is. Why do we need to? What's the fuss about mental health? I mean, mental health here and there. And I mean, why do we really need to know what mental health is? What is the importance? What is it itself? Dr. Inka, I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ma.
Good morning. Yes, so I'm sure we right now, presently, we hear a lot about mental health. Everyone seems to be talking about it. And since the COVID pandemic, we've seen that we systems, countries, individuals need to pay more emphasis on mental health. And this is because with the COVID pandemic, we've seen an upsurge in mental health issues and mental health disorders. So what is mental health really? Our health is divided into two major categories. We have our physical health and our mental health. We naturally pay a lot of emphasis on the physical health. So we're more concerned about our skin, if we look good, if we have a scratch, we put a plaster on it, what we see on the outside. But we don't understand that what we don't see, which is on the inside, even has an effect on the outside. So the inside is your psychological and emotional well-being, which is another way to describe mental health. Mental health is your emotional and psychological well-being, which is on the inside. And this part of you on the inside plays a big role on what we see on the outside. So in a nutshell, the way you think and feel on the inside usually shows in your behavior and your attitude on the outside. So if you wake up today feeling down, unhappy, you feel so in your mind you think I'm not doing so well, or maybe you got a bad news last night and you woke up today feeling I can't do it, I'm not feeling so well, it's not a good day, and then you feel unhappy or not so good. When people meet you on the outside, your behavior will be down and dull and not so active or boisterous. And it will show in your attitude, so you might be a bit more negative. So when people are saying things that sound positive, you would always have a negative remark for it. You'll probably bring people down, always saying the reason why that thing wouldn't work out and stuff like that. So that's how it happens. The way you think and feel on the inside now shows in your behavior and your attitude on the outside. Same for if you wake up feeling very happy, bright, you got a good news first in that morning, you got a good news that you passed your NECO exam, you're feeling very happy, very excited. You got that good news that would make you think happy thoughts and you would feel happy. And then when you come out, you're going to be more jovial, more excited, more ready to mingle, and you'll be more positive. So when people approach you on that day to say things, your remarks or your responses will more likely be positive because you're feeling very positive. So that's really your mental health. And it's important for us to prioritize it because you can see that it happens all on the inside, but it still ends up coming out and showing and affecting our work, our schooling, our relationships, and everything we do in general. So it's important to prioritize our mental health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Inka. That was really nice. It's a great breakdown on what mental health is. And still speaking on the importance of mental health, you mentioned something about people make so much fuss about their physical health compared to their mental health. Why do you think that it's that way? I mean, why do we really need to why is it that people are more particular about their physical health, how they look, what their skin looks like compared to what they're really feeling inside? Is it that people don't just care, or people are not aware?
So for a very long time, there's been a lack of awareness. There's been a focus on mental health disorders. There's been too much emphasis on mental health disorders, depression, psychotic issues, things like that. But we haven't really, focused on mental health on its own. This era of public health, so public health is a part of medicine, a specialty in medicine, which it's preventive health, which talks a lot about preventive health. And this era of public health focuses on health promotion. So that's why you see that there's a lot of information on the internet about healthcare in general. It's because this era, in the past, there have been different eras of public health. There was a past when there was a lot of emphasis on infectious diseases, there's a lot of emphasis on hygiene. The current era we're in public health is about health promotion. So that's why now there's so much information about health. You can go on Google and find about any illness you want. You can go on Google and find out how to prevent this and prevent that. It's because of the era of public health we're in. So, and in line with that, mental health promotion is also being emphasized as well. So we're talking about mental health and how to prevent mental health issues because it's also a health condition. So I believe it's because of the era we are in right now, because of the times, the current times, So the current times is talking a lot about prevention. It's talking about health in general. So of course, mental health topics will come in, issues about mental health will come in, and then we become more aware about mental health issues.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Still speaking on being aware of our mental health, you mentioned something earlier when you were talking about COVID-19 and how COVID-19 has also been a reason why people really need to look into their mental health. What do you think the relationship is between situations that we find ourselves, especially as teenagers, or even these current times when this particular period where students are taking exams and everybody is kind of in the anxiety mode? So what do you think? Do you think there's like a correlation or an interaction between the situations that we find ourselves and our mental health? Because I know you mentioned side affecting our outward behaviors. Now I want you able to help us relate how even the situations around us affect our mental health.
Yeah, so every day, or at every point in our life, we face what we call psychosocial stressors. Our upcoming NECO exam is a psychosocial stressor. So it's a stressor that's affecting us psychologically. So we're studying, but we're also anxious. Am I going to pass? What's it going to be like? You're already thinking way ahead. For some people, they already think they're going to fail the exam. They haven't even done the exam, but already feel they're going to fail, So it's a psychosocial stressor, something that's already bothering us on the inside. We all have psychosocial stressors at different points in our lives, at different age brackets. We have psychosocial stressors. It's just different for a 20-year-old. What might stress you might be different from what would stress a 40-year-old. So for a 20-year-old, might be your exams. For a 40-year-old, might be catering for your family, getting money to provide for the family's needs. So it generally there are psychosocial stresses, and it's how you handle these things at that point in time that will determine if you make it through and remain mentally healthy. Your ability to manage the stressors when they come on is dependent on your coping strategies, the way you cope with life. We heard the main speaker, I can't remember her name, the other lady, when she talks about always doing breathing exercises from time to time. That when she feels stressed out, she does. That's a coping strategy. When she's going through some stressful situation, she does some deep breathing exercise, which helps her relax, calms her nerves and helps her get through whatever the situation is. So it's also important for each one of us to also have our own ways of coping, healthy coping strategies, so that when issues come on board, you activate your strategy, you put your strategy in play, and then you're able to overcome. It's just like all these superhero movies we watch. When there's a crisis, they press a button and activate that superhero mode, and then they're able to overcome that immediate situation. We all have to have healthy coping strategies. Now, in terms of coping, now we classify coping strategies into 3 major categories. We have problem-solving coping strategies, emotion-focused, and we have maladaptive coping strategies. I'll start with maladaptive. As the word says, it's maladaptive. It's coping in a dysfunctional way, you know. So in that kind of situation, a person has something coming up. So I have NECO coming up in a few weeks' time. One, a maladaptive way of coping with that is pushing it under the carpet. Well, when NECO comes in 2 weeks, I will cross that bridge when it comes. So I don't do anything about it now. I'm just going on, watching TV, doing whatever I want to do, saying that when NECO comes in 2 weeks, I will cross that bridge. I'm not addressing the issue. I put it under the carpet. It's a way of maybe denial or escaping from it, not really addressing it. That is a coping strategy. Some people do that. And we see that when we have that kind of coping strategy, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to face the music, you know, and then it might not be pleasant. That's one way people cope. Another way people cope is they could use other ways to escape. So they escape from the situation. The thing is coming, you don't face the situation directly, you escape. People that engage in drugs are escaping. So instead of getting involved in that, they get high for the whole day. They don't address whatever the issue is. They forget about it. So they get intoxicated and they don't address that issue. So the form of escaping from the issue. It's another problem. It's another maladaptive way of coping with issues. Denying issues, not facing them, denying them is another way of coping. Now we have emotion-focused coping strategies. That has to do with always coping with your emotions. So you have NECO coming up in 2 weeks. All you do right now is sob and cry about it. Oh, NECO is coming up. I don't know, I'm going to cope. There's so much to read. I haven't read it. You know, you're just sobbing and getting emotional about it, but you're not really doing anything about it. Whenever anybody asks you, how far with your record, how are you preparing? All you just do is vent, lament. Oh, the social studies teacher did not teach me this. They didn't teach me that. But you're not doing anything about it. All you just do is vent, lament, complain, but you do nothing about it. That's emotion focus. When that day comes, there's going to be a problem because all you've done is use your emotions. Then we have the problem solving or problem focused coping strategy, which is what we encourage as mental health professionals. Problem focused is when there's a problem, we all have problems at one point or the other. Yes, life might be rosy, but sometimes something just comes up and challenges us. And it all depends on how we address that thing at that point. That was what would determine if we scale through or if the problem lingers for longer. So the mindset should be attack every problem. Once a problem comes into view or comes within your space, address that problem, you know, analyze it, put it down. What's this issue right now? Okay, NECO is in 2 weeks' time. What do I want to get? What are my goals? What do I plan to get? Am I planning to get all A's or B's or C's or whatever? You know, you have realistic expectations. This is what I'm aiming for. What do I need to do to get these A's or these B's? Okay, I need to study 2 hours every day, or I need to study 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. I need to cover my math revisions from between the 1st to the 10th of the month, blah, blah, blah. So you set goals, you set, you know, realistic goals and put them in place, and then you address those things. Then you now find that, okay, you might be doing certain things and you find that you're reading the math or reading the English and you don't understand it. What do you now do in that situation? Do you now succumb to emotion-focused strategies and start to cry, or do you actively seek for help? So you know someone in the class that is very good in math or very good in that subject, or you know a teacher that is very friendly that you can approach that would explain that topic to you better. You get up and approach that person. So that is asking for help. That is, you know, you found a problem. I don't understand this thing. You get up and seek for help. That's the way to go with every challenge we face, with every psychosocial stressor we face in life, be it exams, be it work, marriage, relationships, whatever. Outline the problem, put it down, write it black and white, put it down, set goals. How do I need to brainstorm on how to address the issues? How do I address it? We always say you should have a plan A, B, and C. So when you put down the solutions, you put a solution A, solution B, solution C. So if A does not work out, you can fall back on B. B doesn't work out, you can fall back on C. But if you go through life with only one solution, only one answer, and that answer does not work, that person is more likely to break down because you won't be able to see any other way out because you only had a one-track mind, one solution, one way out of the situation. So really, that's how to handle challenges or psychosocial stressors when they come on board.
Wow, that's a whole lot of information. My mind is blown. And before we continue, I'd like to ask a few questions, throw some questions to the teenagers. You can just quickly drop it in the chat box. You know, Dr. Inka has highlighted three major, she has divided the ways by which you can cope with challenges into three major ways. There's the maladaptive, the emotion focused, and the problem solving. And I want you to look back into your life. In what situation, maybe you had a situation where you were on the verge of breaking down, or maybe you actually did break down. What are the ways by which you think you have been able to cope? Pastor Ife mentioned, breathing exercises, and Dr. Inka has talked about problem solving. One, she talked about the maladaptive way and also the emotion focused. Which of these do you think you've done before, or you've been able to use to cope before? I'm pretty sure, there are some times that you do some things and someone will say, oh, why are you so emotional? Maybe you've been emotion focused. Someone does something and then you throw a tantrum and you get angry and you're like, no, leave me or something. So which of the ways do you think you have coped? I just want to be sure that you're following the discussion. So just quickly put it in the chat box. How do you think you have coped? If I'm to talk about myself, I want to say maybe at one point of my life, I must have done the three. There are sometimes people that have said, oh, why are you so emotional? And then I've been in situations where I have to just think about it and then set goals and have a plan A, plan B, plan C. And of course, the maladaptive, where you just say, no, I'm just going to forget about it and just deny that I'm actually not even having the problem. So which of these do you think you have done? I see someone say eating has helped you cope. Okay, that's interesting. Eating. That's interesting. Any other person? Let's just quickly put it in the chat box. Or is it just one person that's following the discussion? All of the above. Wow, that's good, Louisa. Louise, she says all of the above. All right. Any other person? Let's take one more before we move on. Maladaptive. Okay. So I'm sure that okay, I feel like I'm more of a maladaptive person. Okay. All right. So I'm like Dr. Inka says, she said the most important one or the most effective one that you really need to do, especially as teenagers, is to, focus more on the problem solving way. Because of course, it is when you have a problem that you solve it, that is when you move forward and then you're able to resolve and go on. While we move on, I'm going to go back to, someone that said eating is a coping way. I want us to, Dr. Inka, talk about the most common mental health issues. I'm sure, I know you mentioned psychosocial stresses. Apart from psychosocial social stresses, what other mental health issues do we have as teenagers that are very common? I'm sure some people always say, oh, if they have maybe just a moment of sadness, they say, oh, I have depression. And there are some people that are like, oh, I'm going through some stuff, or you have this, you're anxious about something, an exam is coming up, and then you're really anxious, and they say, oh, I have anxiety disorder. What are the common mental health issues that teenagers face, and also the myths that surround this, mental health illnesses that teenagers usually have?
Okay, so worldwide, globally, the most common mental health conditions are anxiety disorders. And we say that anxiety disorders commonly begin in childhood and early adolescence. There's so many, there are quite a number of disorders that can be classified as anxiety disorders. And they're very common, but we just usually see them as a way of life, because a lot of people live with this anxiety. They don't know how to manage it, but they just live with it. So I would say the most common mental health condition we see in childhood and early adolescence will be anxiety disorders, followed by depression, and then also eating disorders. We see a lot of eating disorders in adolescence. Now, I'll start with anxiety. Anxiety can be classified into several categories, starting from what we call the generalized anxiety disorder, where a person feels on edge most days, most times. They feel tense, they feel quite irritable. There's a lot of fears of, they don't even know what they're afraid of, fear of the unknown, fear of anything. That fear just lingers, fear of exams, fear of this, fear of my daddy leaving me, my mommy, they don't even know why they're even afraid, because maybe their parents haven't even left them before, but they're just afraid. And it shows in different things, like different aspects of their lives, like being unable to sleep. Sometimes their appetite changes. They can even be weight loss. They feel tense, they feel edgy. So that's what we call generalized anxiety disorders. Another very common one we see are phobias. Phobias are specific fears where there's something you're afraid of in particular. So you hear people say, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of cockroaches, I'm afraid of the dark, I'm claustrophobic, I'm this, I'm that. A lot of people joke about these things, but those are what we call specific phobias. It's a type of anxiety. It can go on for a long time. The person is living with it until there's a certain psychosocial stressor that now further breaks the person down, and then the anxiety becomes more prominent. So a lot of people live with these things until they get to a breaking point, and then it starts to show and they can no longer maybe control it anymore, then they have to seek for help. Another anxiety disorder would be something we call OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders. We usually tell people as OCD because they're like neat freaks. They're so too neat to a fault, They're so want to wash their hands all the time, want to keep the place tidy all the time. They're so particular. Some people count repeatedly. They keep checking things. They lock the door. They go back to check it. They've locked it again, over and over again. So that's what we call OCD. We have things like social anxiety, where a person becomes fearful in social situations. So then they have to give a speech to a crowd, get on stage to speak in public. Their nerves take over and they're unable to come through. So that's social anxiety. So the person gets anxious in social situations. So we have panic attacks as well. We have people that suddenly just find themselves panicking for no reason. They just find that they can't control it. They just go into unexplained panic from time to time, and they can't really explain it. So these are all classified as anxiety disorders. They're all classified as anxiety disorders, and they're very common in young people. I'm sure, as I've described it, I'm sure one or two people can identify themselves in these things I've said. So they're very, very common. We have what we call depression. Depression is another very common disorder in young people and even in adults. The WHO has even said that depression has become the leading cause of disability. Before, it used to be cardiovascular diseases, so things like myocardial infarction, hypertension, and other heart diseases. But now we see that depression is now the number one cause of disability. It means that there are more people living with depression. They might not even know they're living with depression, because you can be going through depression and not even know you're depressed. But it's just something that just comes in, just creeps in.
Millions are depressed.
It creeps in as a silent thing and just affects the person's quality of life. So I will describe what depression is. So depression is not, I feel sad today, or I got bad news today, and they say, how are you feeling? Say, oh, I'm depressed. No, that's not depression. That's just sadness. You got bad news today, you're feeling sad. Depression is pervasive sadness that goes on for a sustained period of time. So we say for a minimum of 2 weeks. So the person finds that they wake up on most days during the week. You have 7 days in a week. You find that when you wake up most days during the week and you feel down. From right when you wake up in the morning, you're down, you feel sad, you don't even want to get out of bed because you're down, you feel low. And it happens on most days. So out of 7 days, you find that 4 days, 5 days of the week, you feel that way. And then it goes on continuously, week 1, week 2, going into week 3. That is more like depression, And then with depression, there are other symptoms that go along with that sadness. So the person feels sad, and then they feel tired, mentally tired, physically tired. They haven't done much, but mentally they feel tired. They feel overwhelmed. Wake up in the morning feeling tired mentally, feeling tired body-wise. You can't really do much. Maybe you would do your household chores normally and still be able to do other things, but you do the same household chores and you're exhausted, almost feels like there's really no energy left. That has to do with depression. And you find that the person starts to lose interest in things that they used to enjoy doing. So there's someone that would always, hook up with friends to play football every evening, or won't miss that Telemundo on TV. Just find that person is no longer interested in things like that. They seem to be isolating. So spending time by themselves, not wanting to go out or spend time with friends or see other people. That is also something you see in depression. It co-occurs with other what we call somatic symptoms, like there'll be change in sleep patterns. The person finds that they're no longer sleeping as they used to. So the person goes to sleep at night, but finds that they keep tossing and turning in bed and the sleep just doesn't seem to come. So they're there in bed for a while and can't seem to fall asleep. And for some people, they get to bed early, they fall asleep immediately, but they find that in the middle of the night, they keep waking up intermittently. So they startle easily. Somebody opens the door, they wake up. Somebody puts on the light, they wake up. They keep waking up intermittently throughout the night. Or they wake up to use the restroom in the middle of the night and they can't fall back asleep. We find that with depression as well. We see some people wake up earlier than usual. We call that early morning awakening, where you would normally wake up at 6 a.m. Your body's already tuned, your alarm wakes you up at 6 a.m. But you find that by the time the person starts to get depressed, they wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and they can't sleep back. They try everything, but they just can't sleep. So they lie awake in bed till 6 a.m. or till it's time to get out of bed. They find it difficult to sleep all through the night. So with depression, there's usually a change in sleep pattern. There's also a change in appetite, where the person starts to eat too little or eat too much. You lose interest in eating regular meals, and instead of eating 3 times a day, you start to eat once a day, or sometimes might not even eat at all. For some people, they start to eat too much, and in those kind of situations, more likely they would have an affinity for sweet things, carbohydrate-rich foods, junk food, sweet things. So that's for some people that we call emotional eaters. They say, oh, when I start to feel emotional or when I start to feel sad, I seem to eat more. We need to dig deep and find out if the person is depressed, because depression can make a person do that. So that has to do with, now I've talked about appetite, I've talked about sleep, I've talked about loss of interest in things that they usually enjoy doing. I've talked about energy levels dropping. I've talked about the mood being sad. The other things that can occur, like memory issues, you start to have lapses in memory, you start to find it difficult to concentrate on tasks. So you want to read your notes. Normally you will sit through your science notes and read through, but you find that you read a few lines and you're not able to just sit through and continue reading. You're getting distracted. You're finding it difficult to just read through the whole thing, or you read the whole page and find that you can't even remember what you just read. It's difficult to recollect what you just read because you're finding it difficult to pay attention and concentrate on that task. That also is seen in depression. We can also have situations where the self-esteem of the individual starts to drop. So a very confident person finds that they're no longer as confident as they used to be. They don't want to spend time with friends anymore. They feel they can't talk around their friends anymore. They just lose that self-esteem. They're going through a certain situation in their life. They start to feel helpless about the situation, feel like they can't come out of it. So there's a lot of negative self-talk, being critical of themselves. So you have a lot of, I can't do it. It shouldn't be me. They're better. Others are better than me. Those kind of things start to creep into the person's mind. They start to have such thoughts when they want to go through. They want to address or face a challenge or address a problem. They find that they start to doubt themselves. They feel that they can't do it. Others are better than me. What's the use? I won't be able to do it. So it becomes very self-critical. And then when depression progresses for long and remains untreated, hopelessness can start to creep in, where the person starts to lose hope in the future, starts to see things as being bleak, starts to see no way out of the situation. And then that's when the talk of suicide starts to come in, where a person starts to think, maybe it's better, maybe people don't want me around. Maybe it's better if I just make others around me less miserable by ending my life, So those thoughts start to come in. And no one has probably no one has said that they're bothering them or they're a nuisance, but because of the way they're feeling very negative and very down. So they start to see themselves as a burden to others. So that's depression in a nutshell. We say a person has to have at least 4 of these symptoms. So it's not just one. You need to have a collection of the symptoms, about 4 of them together, to say a person is depressed. Depression can occur as mild, moderate, or severe. With mild or moderate depression, the person will go through that phase, and then after a while, they feel better. To resolve on its own, it feels better. But the problem with undiagnosed and untreated depression is that it keeps coming back. So it happens, and then a few months after, the person goes through the same thing again. Months after, it goes through the same thing. So it's something that seems to keep reoccurring from time to time because it hasn't been treated. And they could go through life. That I said, it's something that people live with. People can go through life, go for many years, just be living with depression, and just know that they are just not themselves. That there's sometimes during the year they just lock themselves up and isolate themselves from other people, and they're just not themselves. But they don't even know what exactly it is. They just say, "I'm just not in the mood," and every other person says, "Ah, she or he or she is not in the mood, though. Just leave her to be by herself. Don't worry. In a few weeks, she'll get over it." And then in a few weeks, she's back to her normal self again, and her life continues. But they don't understand that these are bouts of depression that keep coming and going and remain untreated. The danger in untreated depression is when it becomes severe. So it can reoccur as severe depression. And when it comes as severe, it can come with suicidal ideations and suicidal thoughts. And then the person can attempt suicide. So it's important that when we notice these things in our friends or loved ones, why we're in the era of a mental health promotion or health promotion is because we want you all to have this information. We want these things to be at your fingertips. It's just the way we all know malaria. I know that if I start to have recurrent headaches, joint pains, body pains, I want to just lie all the time. I don't want to get out of bed. I start to have a fever. The first thing that comes to my mind, it might be malaria, and immediately I get it sorted. That's the way we also want you. That's also mindset we want everyone to have about mental health, where I start to feel this way. Okay, I'm my usual self. Once I start to feel different, I don't want to mix with people anymore. I'm feeling down on most days. I'm not sleeping well. My appetite seems to be changing. I don't brush it under the carpet. I do something about it. I say, oh, I actively seek for a doctor to talk to. I actively seek for help, and get it sorted. That's the kind of mindset we want people to have. That's why I'm putting so much effort into sharing this information with you, because I want you to be aware, be able to identify it in yourself and in your loved ones so that you can immediately seek for help. Another very common one is eating disorders. In young people, we see what we call anorexia nervosa or bulimia. These are very common. I won't say very common, but they're quite common amongst adolescents. And usually it's because of the perception we see on social media, or the perception that the media gives us, where being thin or being skinny is fashionable. You're not beautiful unless you're full of bones, So people want to be thin. Teenagers want to remain thin and skinny so that they look good. And some people take it a bit extreme, So they have that mindset and it becomes a bit extreme. They starve themselves to the extent where they really become really bony, So one way we can identify anorexia in our friends is when we start to see those bones. So if your friend is naturally a skinny person, or if a friend belongs to the fit farm crew, yeah, it's fine. It's okay to want to be fit and slim and not too big. It's okay, yes. But when you see that it's now becoming something else, where the person is starting to have bones are showing as a clavicle, bones are showing everywhere, and the person still thinks they are fat. Please, it's something. There's a problem creeping in already. So you can see the person is skinny, or their weight. You're starting to become overweight. We say an average adult should weigh 72 kg. For teenagers, you guys will be about 50 something kg, 60 kg, But when the person is now getting to 40 something kg and they're saying, I'm overweight, there's a problem. And we measured BMI. So your BMI has to do with your weight and your height squared, your weight over your height squared, When we measure the person's BMI and it's dropping below a standard, and the person still feels that they are fat, they look in the mirror, all they complain about is being fat. And when you look at them in the mirror, they're not fat. That is a problem that needs to be addressed. When you see someone bulimia, you see the person would eat a normal meal, but they would always go into the bathroom to puke. So they would induce that vomiting. Every time they eat, they induce that vomiting. If you see someone engaging in that, it's something to be concerned about. And one of the ways we usually identify that is from the knuckles. So someone that induces vomiting a lot would have wounds, a lot of wounds on their knuckles, because where the teeth scratches on the knuckles, you will see that they will always have abrasions or scars there. So if you notice your friend seems to always go into the bathroom right after a meal, and then you notice that their knuckles seem to have wounds there, it's something that you can be concerned about, and you can, seek for help on their behalf. So I would say maybe these are three very common things we see amongst teenagers and that we need to be aware of.
Wow, thank you so much. That's in fact, I've learned a lot this period. It's a lot of information. We've looked at the 3 major, most common mental illnesses in teenagers. Before we quickly go into, how we can treat this mental illnesses, and you've mentioned, what we should look out for. There are a few questions in here. Would you like me to, let me just ask the questions so that we don't overlap on them. Someone asked how we can, asked about regular sleep schedules. That can regular sleep schedules be a sign of some sort of disorder, like insomnia and all of that? Is it a sign of some sort of disorder? And then what can we do when we see someone like that, anybody with, all these mental illnesses that has been mentioned? What can we do when we see that? So that's like 2 questions I've asked. Irregular sleep schedules, how do they affect, or is that kind of a sign of some mental illness? And then if you see someone experiencing or exhibiting all of these symptoms or some of these symptoms that you've mentioned earlier, what do we do about it? Dr. Inha?
Okay, so insomnia is actually a symptom. Insomnia is a symptom, just like how fever, when you have a temperature, when your body gets hot, it's a symptom that there's something else going on. Fever is not the problem. Fever is a symptom, is a red flag that there might be malaria, there might be an infection, might be something else. Insomnia is also a red flag that shows you that there's something else going on. And then you want to dig deep into the cause of the insomnia. So when you come to the clinic and you tell me, doctor, I used to sleep for 6 hours, 7 hours, before I used to go to bed by 10 o'clock and I'm off, I'm out immediately, and I don't wake up till 6 a.m. But now I find that I go to bed at 10 and I wake up by 3 a.m. For me, it's a symptom that there's something wrong. I want to dig deep. I want to dig deep and find out why you're no longer sleeping well. And when I find that cause, and then I treat that cause, and then your sleep will just naturally fall back in place and everything will be okay again. So let us not trivialize insomnia. There's a recent news in the medical world about a top cardiologist in the US. Very, very, like a grade A, very, very good cardiologist, very popular, the guy was very diligent, very good at what he did, very healthy, and it was very slim, not that he was fat or obese or anything, and he just dropped dead one day, and everybody was like, this guy that was very fit, farm and everything, and suddenly dropped dead. What could have been wrong? And then they did an investigation and found out that he was barely sleeping 3 hours every night. The guy was so overworked that he barely had 3 hours of sleep every night for many years. And at some point, the body just couldn't handle it anymore and it just packed up. So it just shows you that insomnia is not something to joke with. We need to have at least 6 hours of sleep every day. We recommend 6 to 8 hours. Set your alarm. My sleep should be between 10 and 6 a.m. or whatever. If you get 6 to 8, fantastic. If you get 8 hours, that's fantastic. Just make sure that you get a minimum of 6 hours of sleep. And I always talk about paying back sleep debts. Sometimes you might owe yourself sleep because you had an exam coming up and you did marathon night to night, or you attended a night vigil and you couldn't sleep on Friday night. I say spend Saturday night in bed. Don't say you spend the whole Friday night at night vigil. You didn't sleep the entire night. The next Saturday, the friend invites you to a party, a November party. You get up immediately, you're following your mom to a party on Saturday. Sunday, you're in church. So, you owe yourself sleep for that Friday night that you deprived yourself of sleep. Let that Saturday be a day that you spend the entire day in bed to give yourself back that 6 hours that you lost. It's very, very important, because if you set your body in motion to continue to, we say sleep deprivation can be you can condition yourself to be sleep deprived. So you could set yourself in motion and just continue to deprive yourself of sleep for a continuous period of time. That's why that doctor went on for years, getting just 3 hours, and it would continue to function like that until when it broke down. It becomes a pattern, and it might be difficult for you to break it. So if you have a habit where when you deprive yourself of sleep, immediately you pay yourself back that sleep, your body is able to recover again, and then you're back in motion. So it's very important for us to prioritize our sleep. Let's not joke with insomnia. Let's not trivialize it. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. One more question. before we go into practical ways, biblical ways by which we can overcome all of these challenges, because that's like the most important thing. We're already aware you've given us this information. How do we even go ahead to treat it if we identify it in maybe our siblings or even our parents, our friends? Once we identify it, how can we do it? But before we go on, someone asked a very important question in the chat that I want us to discuss. The person, Toby, said that, do you believe that African parents have a part to play in the rise of mental health? Because if you're to tell them you're going through a mental health issue, they equate it to evil spirits or they say nothing.
Yeah, it's a lack of awareness. It's a lack of awareness. Why are you more aware? Because you guys are the digital age. You guys are the children that go online. You can go to any Google anything, any health condition you want to know about. Our parents are not that tech savvy. So the information they probably have is only the information they probably get from the clinic, except for a few that are now becoming, that are now learning these things. You can be the one to educate your parents, So you feel you're going through a condition and you tell them and they don't seem to understand. Google that thing, print it out and show them. Go to a medical website online, Google the information, give it to them, show them, get them to read it. They might read it and understand what you're going through. Because this is just like how I say depression is this. Someone that is living with you, if you're depressed, someone else living with you that is not aware that you're going through depression, the moment you give them that information on what depression is, and they view that information and they look at you, it starts to fall into place. It's like the puzzle now falls into place. Like, oh, I see. That's what you're exhibiting. That's exactly what's going on. They can now put two and two together and then they will now want to help you. So I think it's important for you to share that information with them. Even things like this, you come for a seminar, there's nothing wrong with you. You're very healthy right now, But you come for a seminar like this, you're talking about depression, anxiety, you go back home, share the information with them. Oh, mommy, do you know something I learned today? You taught us about depression and anxiety and blah, 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 blah. You make them more aware, make them more enlightened. It helps, not just you, it helps everyone. It's just like how you teach people about CPR. We say, when you know CPR, make sure you teach the next person about CPR. Because if you have all the knowledge about CPR, the day you need CPR, you cannot give yourself CPR. That's what we call cardiopulmonary resuscitation, where someone has maybe slumped and had a cardiac arrest, and then you have to pump and do the breathing, breathe to help the person come back to life. If you have all the knowledge in the world about CPR and you don't teach the next person about CPR, the day that something happens to you, there'll be nobody to save you. So it's the same thing with what we're doing now. Every information you get on health, about mental health and all these things, teach your family, teach your next person. Because the day you might need the help, you might not be able to help yourself. You will need someone else to help you. So that's the approach. That's the mindset we should have towards African parents.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That was really nice. So you already have an action plan for today. Pay it forward. So that means after today's service, tell your parents all that you've learned about mental health awareness. And then another important thing to take away, if you owe yourself sleep, ensure you pay it. It's the average number of sleep is between 6 to 8 hours for teenagers. So if you know that you've spent your whole night playing games with your friend, online games, then you owe yourself the sleep. So ensure that you do that. And another question, the last, second to the last thing I'd like us to talk about is practical ways by which we can deal with mental health illnesses. Now that we're mentally aware, we know the major symptoms to look out for as teenagers, in others. Now, if we see all these things happening, what can we do to help? What are the practical ways by which we can help ourselves or help others? What are the things that we need to do? Practical ways, biblical ways that we can place to help ourselves. People do have go through.
This is the wrong thing.
Okay, so the different strategies we can put in place to ensure that we remain mentally healthy. In terms of mental health, categories, we say because our mental health lies on a continuum where at one extreme, which is, let's just say at the right hand side, which is 100%, and at the other extreme, which is on the left hand side, which is 0%, your mental health can fluctuate from 100 to 0 or 0 to 100, depending on whatever challenge you face. So you might be doing extremely well today, and then you hear about an uncle that passed, this morning, and then you feel down today, you're a bit down today, tomorrow, but you owe it to yourself to get back up. So you don't want to remain in that state of being down continuously, because we know that if you allow yourself continue to drag yourself down, you could go into depression if you're not careful. So you want to be able to bounce back up again, which is what we call resilience. You want to be able to, get yourself back up again, engage in fun things, chat with people, spend time with other people so that they can cheer you up, and then you're back to your good old self. Now, when we have optimal mental health, we say our mental health is flourishing. That's the term for it. Your mental health is flourishing when you're doing very well, you're in a good space, mentally. We say your mental health is flourishing. The next step from that is what we call moderate mental health. When it dips a bit, we say the person has moderate mental health. Slightly below that is what we call languishing. So we say a person's mental health is languishing when they are not yet mentally ill, but they are not functioning optimally. They're down, they feel like they're stuck in a rut, they feel that there's a void, they feel like they've plateaued, things are just not moving as they should. They don't just get themselves, they're a bit confused, they just don't understand what they're going through. But at that point, you see the person's mental health is languishing. And that's the point where they start to seek for help. Someone that is aware will start to seek for help. They start to seek for a counselor they can talk to, because they just understand why they're feeling the way they're feeling. That person might not be mentally ill, but they're at that point where they're dipping, it's getting to that point where they could succumb to a mental health condition. And then we say a person has poor mental health when they now fall or succumb to a mental health condition, when they become depressed or develop anorexia or something else. Now, what are tips we can put in place to make sure that we continue to flourish, to ensure that our mental health continues to flourish, to make sure that we continue to have optimal mental health? One, when you're going through any stressful situation, you want to stress. There's good stress, there's bad stress. Good stress is called eustress. Bad stress is called distress. Eustress is good stuff like, oh, your mom just had a baby boy, there's a new baby in the house. So because there's a new baby in the house now, everybody is keeping late nights, you're helping your mom back the baby, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's a bit stressful, but it's good stress. Everybody's happy the baby's around. It's just that for some time we're going to be deprived of certain privileges, And then there's distress where something bad happens, you fail an exam, or something bad happens, that's something distressing, or you lose a loved one. That's distress. So stress is a normal thing. It's a way of life. We all experience stress, but it's how we handle stress. How we handle stress determines who breaks down and who makes it through, So it's very important for us that when we're going through stressful situations, we take a step back and distress. You want to engage in things that will help you ease that stress. So if you're preparing for NECO now, everybody, all you hear now is NECO. Everywhere you go, NECO school, that's what they talk about. Everybody like, read your book. It can be a bit stressful because that's all you hear. That's all you can think about right now. So you can make out that time where you say, I'm going to read 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the evening. In the afternoon, I'm going to take time to distress. So in the afternoon, I'm going to go and play basketball. I'm going to play football with my colleague. I'm going to do my breathing exercises like Pastor Fulu. I get it. Pastor Fela or Fulu would do. Did I get her name right?
Pastor
Ife, I'm sorry. Okay. Pastor Ife would do. I would take that time out to do a breathing exercise. I'll listen to music that I enjoy. I'll dance a bit, So you notice that you're in a high pressure situation where you must read, but you read in the morning. In the afternoon, you take a break. You do something that will help you distress, that will calm you down, help you feel better. For some people, it's drinking a cup of tea. Some people, it's just listening to music they enjoy, dancing, spending time with friends, just making a phone call, laughing with someone on the phone. Just do something briefly that will make you distressed. Then you go back again to read again in the evening, So you have to make out that time. Put in those breaks to help you distress. Everyone has that thing that helps them distress. For me as a person, I would say good music. When I start to feel stressed out, I put on my phone, I start to listen to music that I enjoy. I start to dance because that brings down the pressure. That makes me distressed. For some people, it's hitting the gym. Some people is drinking that cup of hot chocolate. For some people, whatever it is for you, you do it at that point. Helps you feel better, then you can carry on. It's very, very important. And then we talk about other things like sleep. We talked about sleep before, prioritizing your sleep. We talk about diet. If you're not eating well, if you're skipping meals, if you're sticking to only carbohydrates, you're more likely to break down when you get into a very stressful situation. So you want to eat well. And in eating well, you want to make sure that you eat proteins. You want to make sure that you eat a good amount of protein. Very, very important, because from what we learned in school, we know that proteins are the building blocks of life. Everything you have in your body, your red blood cells, your cells, everything, proteins break down into amino acids, and these things help you build cells. These things help you build all your cells within your body. So it's very important that you don't stick to just junk food and eliminate proteins from your meal. Make sure you prioritize proteins in your meals, proteins, veggies, and all that. So a healthy diet, healthy nutrition is very important. I'm going to liken sleep to rest. In the Bible, it says that God created the world 6 days, and on the seventh day, he rested. It shows you that even God thinks that rest is important. So the only way your brain rests after everything you put it through during the day is when you sleep. So just make sure you get a good amount of sleep, 6 to 8 hours. I think about nurturing your support system. Your support system is very important. Your friends, your family, your loved ones, your church members, your TUG members, your colleagues at TUG. Your support system is very important for your mental health. Those that we have around us are very important for our well-being, because if anything starts to go wrong, it's usually those people around you, people that you put around you, that would even notice first that something is going off, and they'll be able to step in and intervene on your behalf. So it's important to nurture that support system. Pick up that phone, call just to check on. You don't have much to say, but you just want to see how they're doing. Make out time to visit every now and then. Make out time to do that FaceTime or that video call, just to make sure that the other person is doing well. You haven't heard from that person in 2 weeks. Reach out to the person just to make sure that they're doing okay. That way you keep that support system alive and healthy and going. So it's important to build your relationships and keep them going. Okay. We talk about other things like having a positive mindset. It's very important to cultivate and have a positive mindset. If you find yourself being negative a lot, negative thoughts come to your mind a lot. If you hear yourself saying things like "I can't" a lot, I should, I can't, I shouldn't, I must, I should, when you put yourself, you kind of like give yourself ultimatums. You find yourself making those kind of statements a lot. I should do this, I must do this, I can't do this. You find that you must, it must be that you're very critical of yourself. And that's why. So I want us to go back and reassess our mental talk, our self-talk. Call it mental self-talk, the kind of things you tell yourself daily, the kind of things that come to your mind. When there's a situation, when you find yourself facing a situation, what's that first thing that comes to your mind? Is it usually a statement like "I can do it," or is it "I can't do it"? What usually comes to your mind? It's good to go and do a reassessment. And if you find yourself always being negative, always seeing the negative, always seeing the reason why something won't work before you see the reason why it will work, then it means that you're more negative, and then you have to do something about it. One of the ways we can do, aside from seeing a therapist who can help you through the process, one of the ways you can beat negative self-talk is by affirming yourself positively. Affirming yourself positively. One of the ways you can affirm yourself positively is, first, you can make a list of the things you feel you are not. If you feel you are not beautiful, you feel you are not accepted, you feel you're not you're not good enough, you feel you're not loved by others, whatever it is, please make a list of those things you feel you're not. Write them down and then make a counter list. So all the things you feel you're not: I am ugly, I am dirty, I am fat, I am this, I am that. Write them all down. And then let's do a counter list where you write the opposite of that thing. So you write, I am beautiful, I am clean, I am loved, I am blessed, I am favored, I am, I am. And then let's put it on If you go to your mirror every morning to look at your face, please stick it on your mirror. If there's a board, wherever you go to every morning to, after you shower, to dress up, a point in your room where you go to every morning, please stick it to that point. And I want every morning when you wake up, you've had a shower, recite it every morning. I am beautiful, I can do it, I am blessed, I am favored, I am this, I am that. The more you do that, you realize that you start to have a change of mindset. You start to see yourself as that. It works. It always sounds very funny or very trivial. When you start to do it sounds foolish, but it works. So you affirm. There are also positive affirmations in the Bible. The things you can pick at: I am blessed and highly favored. The lines are falling onto me in pleasant places. I have a godly heritage. All those things, write them on your wall. Recite them every morning. Affirm yourself positively. You find that negative self-talk will start to change to a positive one. And when you start, you remember I said the way you think and feel on the inside. You do that in your private room. It starts to change your mindset in your room, on your own. You find that when you now come out and you interact with other people, you'll be more positive because you've started to change yourself on the inside. So your behavior on the outside, your attitude on the outside will also start to change and become more positive. And you just start to find that your friends will be like, you changed though. You that used to be like, we can't do. You're not the cheerleader. You're not the one always cheering everybody on. You're the one that always have a positive thing to say to everyone. You just find that everybody will now start to see that change in you. And that is what we call your mental health on the inside having an effect on the outside. Okay, so that's that. And make time to spend time with other people. Make time to engage with others. There's so many tips I can give, but I could go on and on and on for the next 2 hours if you allow me. But I think these are some very vital ones that I have shared. Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Yinka. So everybody, you have it there, the major strategies that you can do. The one I want to say I took out most from that is rest. I mean, on the third day, God rested. So yes, rest is very important. And also, the Bible also says that in everything that you do not be anxious, but with prayer and supplication, let your request be made known to God. So always pray and rest as well. And also, word of affirmation, important. I've learned a lot from this discussion. And before you go, Dr. Yinka, I'd like to ask one important question. Before you go, you can just briefly talk about it. Someone said that, is a therapist the best option to cure mental health? I mean, when do you realize and when do you know that it's time to actually seek professional help? Does therapy even work? Because I think someone also asked that question that I don't think therapy works. Does therapy work? Fine, if it does work, when do I know that it is time for me to seek professional help? If I've done all these strategies and I see that, I'm not getting to that, I can't remember how you mentioned it, that the perfect, almost perfect 100, the good mental health that you mentioned. If I'm not getting there, flourishing, thank you very much. So if I don't have that flourishing mental health, when do I know it is time to seek professional help?
Okay, so the key number one step to having good mental health is self-awareness. You have to be aware, which is what we're doing now. We're sharing knowledge so that we can all be aware. Knowledge is key. With knowledge, you can make a big difference. So once you become knowledgeable, you now do a self-assessment. Assess yourself, be real with yourself. Just like how we sat down today and we talked about negative self-talk, talked about being self-critical. Go back and assess yourself. You by yourself and be real with yourself. Am I a negative person? You can ask a few friends. Do you think I'm a negative person? Do you think I go more negative than positive? And if they tell you yes, don't feel, ask them why they said that. Try to, because it's all part of being self-aware. Ask them, why do you think I'm negative? Why do you think? And they could cite a few examples. Oh, when this happens, you're like this. When this happens, you're like that. Don't get offended by those things. Instead, put those things do more research and try to see how you can change that negativity into positivity. That's number one. So once you try these things, you've done your self-affirmation, try to change negative self-talk into positive talk, and maybe you tried and you feel like maybe you're not making a headway. If it seems like you still come across as negative or you're still very critical of yourself, you can reach out to a counselor at TUG, talk to someone, talk to a mentor, talk to a sibling, talk to someone, and see if they can help, open up to the person and see if the person can help you. If you try that and it still does not work, then you can reach out to a professional and see if a professional can help you. Now, therapy is actually just talk therapy. Therapy is just talk therapy. It's called psychotherapy and it's called talk therapy. It's talking, going to meet someone and talking to the person about the things that bother you, things that concern you, and then they're able to decipher what these issues are. So for us as therapists, if you come to see me, for example, because of my knowledge of psychology, I can be having a regular conversation with you. But in that conversation, I'm able to pick out several things about you. So I can have a regular conversation with you, but I'm able to pinpoint maybe character deficits, character strengths, certain things about you just by chatting and laughing with you. And with that, I can design. So I'm able to pick out what those things are and make you more aware that these are the things you're doing right, these are the things you're doing wrong. And then I need you to now go back and work on those things. Going to therapy is not you coming to meet me, tell me all your problems, then I solve all your problems for you. That's not therapy. That's not therapy. We sit down together, brainstorm on solutions to your problems. I make you more aware of the problems. Then we sit together and I direct you to the solutions of your problem. Then you have a role to play. You now go back and work on those things we've talked about. If you don't go back and work on those things, therapy won't work for you. If you're not ready to go back and work, don't bother going to therapy because it won't work. It's not just you going to sit down and listen and cry and laugh and then go back and continue as usual. No, it won't work. You have to go back. There's work to be done. The things that your therapist exposes or makes you aware of, you have to go back and now work on those things and change those things. And then sometimes we see that therapy alone, psychotherapy alone is not enough. And in those situations, we now have to prescribe medications. So there's a role for medications, and there's nothing wrong with taking medications for your mental health. It just shows that certain chemicals in the brain are a bit out of sync or imbalance, and we need to balance those chemicals, and that's what the medications will do. So we put your medications for a certain period of time that balances the chemicals, get back in sync, and then you're back to your good old self. So that's therapy, and that's the role of medications in it. So
thank you very much, Dr. Yinka. In fact, I think we have our answers there. We've looked at, everything that we need to know and understand as teenagers on mental health, mental illnesses, mental health awareness in total. So you have the duty to pay this information forward. Talk about it with other people, your friends, talk to your parents, educate them, make them aware of all the things that you've learned is important. And of course, know these strategies, know when to, advise people or just talk about it with people, the strategies that you have that you've learned today, and also know how to apply it to yourself, especially when you feel that you're going through, a few things, when you feel that your mental health is not flourishing, maybe it's at a moderate level and you want to bring it back up. Thank you again, Dr. Yinka, for this amazing session that we had today. It's been enlightening. It's been wonderful. We've learned a lot. Pastor Ife, I would like to give a closing remark and on the topic so far, and if you'd like to share anything with the church.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Yinka. I think a lot of times, when we most 100% of the time when we get you on here, I'm thinking, God, I'm actually thankful to be on this chat because I don't think I even had the opportunity to get this amount of wisdom and get this amount of knowledge. It's always a blessing to speak one-on-one with someone in that field because as you're talking, you're actually giving a lot of understanding to even areas of my life in person that I was like, so that's what that is, or that's why I was dealing with this. So especially, I shared briefly with the teenagers, but I dealt with a lot of anxiety beginning of this year. And it was a feeling that I'd never felt before, not being able to breathe, not having panic attacks, not being able to figure out why I'm unable to sleep, not being able to figure out why it feels like my thoughts are going 50 kilometers per second or whatever. So a lot of things that you had shared today gave a lot of insights. And even, when it comes to being with people or even having family members or relatives that you see dealing with those things, it's very important to even get educated on how to cope and love these people through it. One thing I wanted to even share was a Bible passage that I used to meditate on that got me through feelings of anxiety and just not like just trying to get through it. And I love to meditate on Philippians 4, verse 5, which says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So, as important, and I really recommend therapy 100%, but as important as therapy is also important to feed, like Dr. Inka said, feed yourself with positive thoughts and also with the word of God. And every time I used to deal with anxiety, I would ask God for peace. Like, God, sometimes I don't even understand. It might be the randomest thing. Like, someone is coming to my house from Ibadan, and all of a sudden I start feeling so anxious. What if she gets in an accident? What if she does? What if she this? And then I start losing my breath. I start panicking. I start wanting to just hold my chest, my heart, So in those moments, I will just ask for the peace of God that transcends all understanding to just fill my heart. And sometimes I'll just go to a corner and just sit on the floor and even start to sing songs. And that's why I love Maverick City Music, because a lot of their songs contain powerful words that speak to your heart, that give you peace, that give you that restore your sanity, and the breathing exercises that we spoke about. And also a lot of times I think it was my friend that actually told me this, that she'll say, look around your room and identify 5 objects in your room, identify things in your room that are the color pink, identify what you're smelling. And I think the minute I take my mind off my thoughts and start to think of, oh, this is a blue wall, my AC is blue, my window blinds are blue, my mind just starts to, it takes my mind away from that anxious thoughts, and I start to just focus on other things, and I feel my sanity and my calmness being restored the minute I just take myself away from that position. So it's even just something I wanted to share from personal experience, how I've been able to take myself off anxious thoughts and feed it into things that would restore that sense of peace. But thank you so much, Dr. Yinka. Your wisdom is honestly like the amount of wisdom and knowledge you impart is so admirable, and we thank you for giving us your time of day. I will just close with the prayer. I don't know if Victor Bori have anything else to add. No, okay. All right. Someone asked here if pets can help to stop mental illness. I don't know if Pastor Inka have anything to say on that briefly, and then we can close.
I won't say it stops, I won't say it stops mental illness, but I would say it can help your mental health. So having a loyal pet forms part of your support system. So it helps your mental health. But I won't say it's a solution to mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
That's
do you understand? Good. So those are two different. There are two different things. Mental health is your health. Yes. Mental illness is something that's a deviation from the norm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really good. Thank you so much, Ma. All right. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, we just come before you with thanksgiving. Thank you for all this wisdom. Thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for the grace to even understand a lot of the things that Dr. Inka came here to share. And we just ask that you give us retentive memory, that whenever we are going through seasons like this or going through experiences, whether in person or with family or close friends, that you remind us a lot of these nuggets of wisdom, of knowledge, and you'd also, give us the ability and the grace to be of help to people around us dealing with these issues, and also be a source of help to ourselves. Remind us, Lord, that every time we go through these seasons, that you're with us in the storm, and you'd be with us through this storm, and you would give us peace, and you will restore our mind and our sanity, and just give us that reassurance, Lord, that with you all things are possible. So there's no mental health, illness that you can't cure, and there's nothing that you won't even. And you've also equipped a lot of therapists around the world to be able to help us through these seasons. So we just thank you and we glorify your holy name. We commit this week into your hands. We commit all that we have to do. We cover all the students that are doing their WAEC and NECO in your hands. We ask, Lord, that you take away any form of anxiety, any form of worry, of fear, of panic, and you restore peace into their hearts, and just give them that certainty, Lord, that you would work all things for their good, and you've gone ahead of them to perfect all things. Thank you, Lord, for our teachers, and thank you for just the week we have ahead. We ask for your protection and your guidance, and we give you all the glory and all the honor. In Jesus' name we prayed. Amen. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Yinka. Thank you, Victor Bora, and thank you guys for joining in, and have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye, Dr. Yinka.